right, so thank you everyone. Welcome to the Prompt Lab, and this is the first session out of 5 sessions that we have planned for you. Thank you for signing up. We're super excited to be onboarding to this Gen AI journey with you. We have received signups from all over the world, from the very far east in Asia and also to the very west, North, and Latin America. So it's amazing. We're super duper excited about this. So a little bit about me. My name is Soraya. So I'm the founder of Aiku. I'm originally from Indonesia, but now living in Wiesbaden, Germany, with a combined experience of marketing, sales, and public relations for serving a B2B technologies company in Singapore, also in Germany. I'm the founder of Aiku, and today I have with me my colleague, which is another founder, Siegfried Eckstedt. He will later introduce himself. About Aiku itself, we are a company specializing in artificial intelligence. We bring automation to the industry to enable a better and healthier community. So we design, prototype, and develop customized AI software. But at the same time, we also provide learning platform for individuals who would like to do prototype and learn about AI. Yeah, so what is Prompt Lab? So a Prompt Lab, or the Prompt Lab, is a series of 5 online learning sessions covering one of the most central topics in the space of Gen AI, which is the best, write the best prompt. So getting the best out of Gen AI with leveraging our strategies in prompting. So what's special about this, we designed this program to be hands-on. So we want to provide hands-on and practical sessions for you so you can start it immediately. It's flexible, so it's for you. You can, of course, attend and have a live session with us, but the recording will be available for you to rewatch, also for our friends and colleagues who are not able to be here. It's free, so there's no barrier for everyone to join. You can just open the link and even share to your friends and families if they need this. It's interactive, so we try our best to address your questions or if you have any feedback, and we can integrate it to our next sessions. Of course, we plan 1 hour, but we will try our best to be more interactive or addressing as many questions as we can. But we will also have a platform for our community, which is a WhatsApp community, which we later on will share with you. And as being mentioned, today is the fundamentals, but we have assess quality, advanced techniques, multimodal prompts, and specific applications. So these sessions are scheduled to be every Wednesday evening at 5 p.m. German time. And if you would like to know more about Prompt Lab, just check the link below, aiku.tech, Prompt Lab, the upcoming sessions. Later, I will also share with you the link. And last but not least, as being mentioned, we created a community WhatsApp group. So it's for you to receive updates. And if you have any questions, they are not, you don't think about it today, but you have it later on, we will provide a platform to ask questions and getting answers not only from us, but also from the community itself. So that's all from my end. I will quickly give it to Ziggy because he will provide all of the information that we need for our today's session. So Ziggy, the stage is yours.
So reason why we thought it's very, very worthwhile to do something around prompt engineering was that you just keep seeing things like this. So this is something you may have a thumbs up maybe if you have seen it on LinkedIn, but with my LinkedIn, whenever I open the LinkedIn feed, I just have way too much content that is originating from either experts or enthusiasts or beginners. So you never really know, but there's just way too much content. And one of which was this, very, very popular. So OpenAI co-founder Ben Heilich shared the anatomy of an O1 prompt. And very soon it was deemed to be like, oh my God, this is a secret that we are tapping into. And look at all of these wonders that these guys from inside share. And now we basically get a glimpse of the holy grail of how to use Gen AI and so on. And um, this becomes even more, I would say, apparent if you look into and read into the comments and see the depth of the discussion, basically. Um, Comments reaching from, oh, that's interesting, to people tag their colleagues and say, hey, because you asked, this is how the guys from OpenAI do it. And yeah, thanks for sharing this insightful breakdown. It's a game changer for prompt writing, where you even think like, okay, this has been generated with Gen AI itself. And some other guys who, I don't know, get into details, but you're not really sure, like, are they expert? Are they not expert? Sharing their thoughts. Whenever I'm prompting something, maybe about a problem that I would like to solve, I provide my initial understanding and a little bit of context on how I think it might be solved, and then dump the code snippets, information in parts, explaining certain characteristics for each, and provide restrictions to the LLM. It works perfectly with the influence of personalization prompt I've provided initially in the first prompt for the agent. If necessary, I format the information. It also enables to provide any necessary math and latex, and so on and so on and so on. So some people get way into detail, and others just like, yeah, this is cool. And this makes me think like expertise on professional networks these days is wild. And I thought to myself, all right, let's get to the bottom of things. Because honestly, I have been prompting a lot in the last 2 years at least. I've been using Gen AI tools day in, day out, almost on a daily basis. And even with a lot of experience in this, fairly a lot, I still wonder whether I actually write prompts in a way how it's recommended, or in the best way, let's say, possible. What's an effectively good prompt? So I thought, preparing this, what is a sane way to approach it? And I thought scrolling LinkedIn is not. So I thought to approach it in a way how you would usually approach it. So if you wonder how to use a certain product, why not turning to the original manufacturer of the product and just see how they guide you as a user in terms of like how to use it. So this is what I've done. I've looked into OpenAI, Anthropic, Llama, or Meta, Google, and Cohere as my, let's say, ground truth, because they provide prompt engineering guidelines, how to use the large language models that they create. And I found it something that's actually intuitive, because if you wonder how to drive a car, why don't you ask the car manufacturer? Or if you wonder how an airplane works, like, yeah, you should probably ask Boeing or Airbus. So this is what I'm doing. I'm not going to anywhere else but those who have crafted these tools for us. What's the process, basically? I'm taking the body of knowledge that is there and I'm searching it. It's directed search, and you will see in a way how this has turned out eventually. And what I wanted to prepare for you are basically two major takeaways. One is the components of a well-structured prompt. This relates to the overall structure. So what content pieces should a well-structured prompt have? And if we talk about the structure, how should you actually sequence it, the order of these components? And secondly, really just some general tips and good practice. This goes about, let's say, more of the workflow. Now, the components. And as I've just stated, this is all about what to put into a prompt and how to structure it. And here is right away a lot of content. Um, I've tried to structure it a little bit because once you get into the documentation of each of the model providers, there's actually quite a bit of noise. And some of the structural components have similar but not the same naming, even though they sort of mean the same. There is a common agreement that there's, and I call it like basic standard, that two components should be there. And this is something that you, I'm very sure, have used all along. It's the instruction or just telling the task. Some refer to it as directive. And the goal, the objective, the target that you're trying to achieve and to get help with. In many cases, this can be implicit, can be sort of woven into one statement, but we will get to it. And there is a further agreement on there can be other components that are for more specific or advanced application. And here we have two columns and four pieces each. Number one, on the first column, this is more standard, I would say, and more recommended. It touches on the role and persona. It touches on examples, so providing examples, providing more context information and output format. And the other four, constraints, tone, reasoning steps, and recapping, are not so common, which is why I am not focusing on these so much as we roll through each of these components. So for each of these components, I've actually drilled into them and checked what do the model providers say in this regard. But before we look into it, let's get back to our initial example. Because I've been going over this with like a little bit swiftly. So it actually, with the term anatomy, implies that it's structured. And yes, it is. It is about getting help on hiking trips or hikes in the Bay Area of San Francisco. And the first structural component is a goal. So I want a list of the best medium length hikes within 2 hours of San Francisco. Each hike should provide a cool and unique adventure and be lesser known. So maybe I can have a little bit of a zoom into it so it's easier to follow for you. And then it does something that I have as an output formatting. Here it's called return format. That is also a reason why there is sometimes a little bit of confusion because we have similar terms, yet the definitions are not always like standard. And here it is for each hike, return the name of the hike as I'd find it on all trails, then provide the starting address of the hike and so on. Return the top 3. There's something here that's called warning. Sometimes it's also called limitation or constraint, where the user here is asking for being careful to make sure that the name of the trail is correct, that it actually exists, and that the time is correct. So it's a little bit of a more in-depth instruction and a recap also of what we have seen before. And then a context dump, as it's called here. Sometimes this is also being referred as additional information or just context, but we see this as well. So if we go back to the components that are being recommended by all of the model providers, as I've just introduced, we can see that the goal is highlighted. The instruction in yellow color here, the tick box, is not explicitly highlighted, but implicitly it is stated. There is no role or persona, so it's not being mentioned that you are a hiking expert and assist in composing hiking travel plans or something like that. There are no examples, but there are output formats, expectation on output formats, constraints in terms of the warnings, and the context is there as well. So it's pretty all right. Yet, since you can tell that I was able to draw from what already exists in the prompt engineering guides from the model providers, there are no secrets here. And there is no secret treasure chest that is shared here. Actually, I think the best what this has is a good visual representation. So and a catchy title. And here you go. This is all it takes these days to go viral in the AI industry. The next aspect is quite interesting as well, and it is about how to actually put order into your prompt. So if you're aware of each of these components and how you can write them, how would you actually sequence them? And it's most common to do it the way how it is stated on the left. And it is to start with the role. So you are an assistant in something, for instance. Then continue with the goal and instruction. That would be similar to how we have seen it just now. If you have some explicit expectation in terms of how you want the output to be like, or you have input-output pairs, for instance, as well, then you can give that as a list of examples. And in similar way, you can then also provide some output formatting or just dump your context at the end. An alternative to that, and this is the second column here, and I would say it's optional for long prompts and particularly improves performance for long context or large context. A lot of examples, long text passages that you just want to attach. It's recommended to put the examples and the context or whatever data you have first, and then follow along with other components such as the role, the goals or instruction, and how you expect the format in terms of the output. This is something that particularly Anthropic highlighted. And now you can see in the box, in the lower right box, where I ticked the boxes with Google Anthropic and Cohere, that it is something that they highlight. In general, when I have done this evaluation, I just validated whether these model providers agree to this technique, let's say. And if they have not put it into what they published, I did not tick the box. They might agree to it because it is a good practice, and yet they have just not written it down in their documentation. So if the box is not ticked, it does not mean that they disagree with that. It just means that they have not published it. But we can basically draw a basic inference from those that have published it and validate what we can read from that. That would be also a question from my end. Has anyone actually attempted the alternative way? So putting a lot of context up front first and then do the instruction last. I would be curious to see that. Again, you can share that in the chat. I have recently, because I used to do it with a context dump in the end, and with long contexts, shifting them up. I have seen indeed better results. And Anthropic actually claims like it can lead to a performance improvement of up to 30%, depending on how you want to measure that. But in general, it's intuitive because the large language models also have a little bit of an attention span, and the further at the bottom the instruction, the more likely it is that it just doesn't continue what you have written in the context, but it picks up your instruction as it comes towards the bottom. All right. If you have to like structure a prompt and give it an order, there's also the imminent question of, well, how do I actually format the prompt itself? Not the output, but the input. And here there are three things that the model providers highlight. Number one is that you should, and that is easy to follow actually, to provide sections. And the sections should have titles, such as role, context, instruction, task, and so on. You can also use tags, XML tags, for instance, but they can also it can also be markdown tags. And if you have some dedicated information, you can put them in quotation. I have brought one example that comes from the Google documentation. And this, for instance, is with XML tags. So I think this is the most, let's say, elaborate way to do it. And I myself, I don't enjoy it so much because it's a lot of typing, but it's very precise. So if you are all up for reliability, then this is a very good way to structure the input of a prompt. As you can tell here, the tagging is always starting with, like, let's say, constraints, and then it closes off with constraints again with the backslash. So this is how you would do it. All right, let's dive into the first of the components and see what general advice the model providers have for us. And this would be instruction, task, or directive. Depends, like sometimes there is different naming for it, but it's, of course, what you want eventually the large language model to do for you. And here there are some advices that are really no-brainers. And trust me, we will get to more exciting things. So I will just go through it very swiftly. You should be clear and specific, unambiguous, avoid some misunderstanding if possible, be explicit, concise, no need to be very wordy, but be detailed, and also be action-oriented. So rather using verbs, for instance. And something that I've highlighted in the overall prompt design here with being well structured applies as well. So this, for instance, can be done by structuring your tasks as a list or providing sections in your tasks as well. Let's look into an example here, and it is one about that comes from Cohere, and it is about using do over do not. So sometimes we want to say like, you should avoid doing something. And this is something that large language models don't get along so well with. And what they can do better is if you turn it into an active and more instructive way. Here it's about rephrasing an article from um, a newspaper about an ice hockey game, and the instruction is to summarize the salient points of the text and use bullet points where appropriate, and paraphrase the content into a rewritten, easily digestible. Sentences do not extract full sentences from the input. So instead of saying avoid copying the text from the original article, you say rephrase the content. So it explicitly knows what to do and does not have to guess what it should do instead of avoiding one thing. Because if you tell it to avoid one thing, it could still do like 10 other things, and it doesn't know what 10 other things it should choose from. And it takes just the most plausible or probable one. And in that regard, being more precise helps you in this regard. So focus on do's over do not do's. Now the next point, found a little bit, I don't want to say controversial, but it was not mentioned by everyone. So a goal or objective or target, it's also referred to like a mission or an overarching aim. So only Google says that this is something that should be absolutely essential in a prompt. And for others say they don't actually state that you need that. And Anthropic recommends to define like something like an end goal when providing the context. And with OpenAI and Cohere, like system messages are recommended for like the overall task context if you set up in the backend an assistant. So this is therefore not particularly recommended to be done in the usual day-to-day use, let's say. It's rather emphasized to be clear and specific and detailed, and therefore convey the goal and the desired outcome with the instruction. I think that makes sense, and it's a fair point. The next one is about the role and persona. This is very, very common, and it can serve many benefits. One is personalization, that you can give the response a particular tone, style. You can focus on like given perspective and so on. This can also help with system prompts. So setting up, let's say, specific assistant. But you can also bake some expertise into it by providing some domain knowledge, for instance, or ensure that a given role is appropriately used for a task that you want an assistant to accomplish. Can also improve performance and accuracy. There is an example by OpenAI that I can share with you. And this is how you could imagine this to look like? You're a highly capable, thoughtful, and precise assistant. Your goal is to deeply understand the user's intent, ask clarifying questions when needed, think step by step through complex problems, provide clear and accurate answers, or proactively anticipate helpful follow-up information. Always prioritize being truthful, nuanced, insightful, and efficient, tailoring your responses specifically to the user's needs and preferences. So this is a role that is still in the, I'd say, more general setup, but you can tell by the number of features or characteristics that the role should imply that it's quite well designed in that aspect, that they want the role to actually also accomplish a couple of tasks while it is in the role. The next aspect is about examples. And this is something that is absolutely well agreed on and particularly valuable for more complex tasks. And if you have some specific formats or styles, or you want to achieve some output, this is very, very good. So this can come in the nuance of few shot or multi-shot examples. It can provide some, or what you should do here is also to structure it again and use labels with, for instance, example, just state example there. And whenever you have a more complex task, you should definitely consider providing multiple examples for a complex task. How could this look like? I have something that comes from Anthropic. They have this example about analyzing feedback without and with examples. On the left-hand side, you see how the AI responds to an inquiry without giving the example, and on the right-hand side with the example. Major takeaway is that if example is provided, such as here, where they have the example, you can also see how the tags, the HTML or XML tags, are being wrapped around the example. And the example captures input, category, sentiment, priority. Then the output basically has literally the same setup. Whereas if not provided, it just guesses the best way how to answer. This again can help to inform what output formatting you have next to making it more reliable. Creating examples actually is a little bit of an extra effort. So let me know how often you actually use examples and whether you think that even though it appears to be something that is useful and effective, whether you actually in a day-to-day use get to practice it. Because I find it relatively hard to come up with examples from, well, just starting off. So I'd be interested to hear from you. Next one, context. You have seen it in the first prompt, context dump, it was called. What are the recommendations here? As you can see here, all the boxes are ticked. Everyone agrees on context being king, and I can absolutely double down on that. It reduces tremendously hallucination and is probably the best way next to providing examples, making generative AI more reliable. What are some of the devices that we see? Structuring it. So the aspect of structure is something that shows up as a pattern, doesn't it? You also, with the context, should structure the context. That is particularly valuable if you have multiple sources or multiple categories of context that you say, okay, this is source one, this is source two, whatsoever. Be explicit as well in how the context is to be used. So tell the model to use the provided context is something that is absolutely recommendable. And you can also consider instructing the model to cite from or quote the context to improve the grounding and traceability. And actually, I think you might have come across RAG, retrieval augmented generation. This is something that you can do yourself in a little bit of a manual effort, of course. You can have your own retrieval augmented generation done manually, let's say, by placing everything directly in the prompt. So whenever you don't have the luxury of having a RAG system, you can do it yourself. And how could this look like? Here's an example that Meta provides on their Llama documentation. Very, very simple. This is why I've chosen it. Users asking, what is the capital of California? The capital of California is Sacramento, the response. What is the temperature in Menlo Park on December 12th, 2023? I'm just an AI. I don't have access to real-time or historical weather data. So it is aware and knows common facts, but what it cannot do is, well, what it just responded us with, real-time or historical weather data or explicit data that is maybe just not in the time frame of its training data. How could you avoid that? That's the right-hand side here. Given the following information about temperatures in Menlo Park, what was the temperature in Menlo Park on the 23rd, December 12th, 2023? And here you can tell it gives the right temperature. If you ask of a temperature in Menlo Park outside of the dates that it is being provided with, it responds with, sorry, I don't have information about the temperature. And that is also an aspect of how it actually can be made reliable in that regard. Output formatting. This is something where, again, you find a lot of recommendations. Here I have put together 6 of these tiles. And one thing that can be highlighted, and I found that on the Meta documentation, they say that actually the output formatting can implicitly improve the results. Why? Because you're very explicit on your instructions, how you want the outcome to be, and it's way better than just open-ended prompts. What are some recommendations around achieving this? Again, of course, be explicit, have some structure, provide examples. We have gone through that already. It can also be specify a specific style or tone, let's say, if you want to have some stylistic elements that should show in any case. This can also come with, let's say, the role or persona description, but it can also come with the output format. And one thing that is also interesting that you should consider is pre-fill the output. So you can start the expected output in the prompt itself to guide the model in a better way. So this basically is going in the direction of few-shot prompting already as well. So providing an example or just starting the output how you expect it to look like, or leave blanks or something like that. That helps very well. So how could this look like? that's an example of JSON output in combination with reasoning, and it's provided by Google. And it is about what's the most likely interpretation of a sentence, and then think step by step and print out the thinking process. By the way, if you want any Gen AI model to act like a reasoning model, then this instruction of think step by step and print out the thinking process is a way how to get a step closer to it. Of course, there's a little bit more to reasoning models, but should you not have a reasoning model at hand, but you want the generative AI to act more like one, then this is an approach how to achieve it. And if you want this thinking process to be structured in a given way so that the output can be processed more neatly, then this is a way how to do it. And here you can actually tell how well this responds in this very example. So I should also highlight this is almost like a product demonstration by Google. So of course it will work all right. But sorry, the zooming didn't really work. So I will just point out there's the answer, there's the thinking, and then each step and the thought that comes with it. So this works pretty all right. All right, some general tips and good practice. This is basically, let's say, a combination of things that were not mentioned in the specific components that I have mentioned earlier. And I thought to just, let's say, pool everything. And some of these are repetitions from what we have seen earlier, but still I thought it's worthwhile to share this again. So no-brainer, be specific and detailed. So use unambiguous language, clearly state what you want, provide sufficient context. Then structure. I guess you have seen that quite a lot. Structure, structure, structure. I could repeat it all over again. So place the main instruction strategically. That is what I can maybe also repeat, because with shorter prompts, if it's at the top, it's fine. But if you have a very long context with a lot of examples, rather put it to the back. Use a rich context, so give the model all the necessary background information that it might require. Particularly, you have seen the weather example, information that is more up to date, that it cannot know, something more very specific. And you can think of relevant documents. You can think of some profiles, some situational details, the edge cases, not the general stuff. Then guide the output. We have seen a JSON example, but it can be so much more. It can be list, table. You want to have some markdown formatting. You want to have some XML structure, the number of paragraphs, bullet points, length of text, number of words. Anything can be accomplished here. And use examples. That was a very clear one. We've just also discussed it. I just wanted to bring it up again because it's one of the most effective ways to guide the models, especially for specific format styles and complex tasks. Break down the tasks if you are in the instruction section. This is partially why reasoning is so good. And then break down the request into a sequence of simpler steps or subtasks. Is very, very, very good. Focus on the do's. So whenever possible, tell the model what it should do rather than only what it should avoid. I've covered that. Consider interaction is something that I did not cover, but this is something that you might have tried as well already. to build one prompt on top of the other, so that it has a little bit of a chain of prompts. That, of course, works in combination if you allow the model to ask clarifying questions or request missing details before proceeding. This can be very helpful as well. And as always, iterate and refine. So start with a prompt, analyze the output, identify what you didn't like, refine the prompt, and test it again. And we have already arrived at the end of the first session. So quite a lot here. I'm aware of that. One thing that you can, I think, always do is do a little something what I have done. So this is basically the last or very, very last general tip or good practice. Should you like use one tool more preferably, it's like your most popular tool, then just go to the provider of that tool documentation page, or just Google, I don't know, OpenAI prompt engineering guide or Perplexity. I have not mentioned Perplexity today, for instance. It's also very popular. Perplexity prompting guide, whatever. Mistral, others. Usually, either it's a full-blown documentation, or it's a blog article, or there's more. You would find information from the providers themselves. And it turns out they have a very specific idea on how to use the tools that they have crafted. And yeah, these are the closing words of today. And I think Soraya can take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Siggi, for the wonderful session. I just wanted to highlight that today is the very fundamental session of Prompt Lab. So we will cover different aspects of the prompt engineering. So these are the upcoming sessions. So if you have not followed us on LinkedIn or Instagram, please do so and join our community when you would like to do that, because maybe today you don't have any questions or you don't have any feedback, but we are very welcome to receive your feedback in a way that we can improve the sessions. And in any case that it will be helpful for you, let us know. All right, so I think we're very punctual. So therefore, I would like to close this session. Thank you so much for being here and being interactive here. Let's go back home and test it out with the new knowledge, and maybe you can let us know next week or on the WhatsApp group, telling us, okay, so what's better and what's not. So we would be very happy to hear that from you. All right, so that's all, and thank you so much. Have a good evening and good morning to whoever who's not being here. All right. Thanks. See you next week. Bye.